Today on Rainbow Country, launched in July 2023, the Church of Fabulosity, bringing more joy and fabulosity to the world. And essentially what the Church of Fabulosity does is they provide ordinations for ministers, and they currently have 40 ministers in 8 states. Joining me to talk about the Church of Fabulosity is the founder and president, Minister Lala.
Hi, I'm writer Adam Smith, author of Deep Sniff, A History of Poppers and Queer Futures. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Minister Lala, hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Actually, I'm doing fabulous.
I have to say thank you for being here, to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that, Minister Lala, the fabulous Minister Lala, especially to talk about the Church of Fabulosity. I like to start my interviews from the ground up. The basics.
Okay.
So talk to me about the Church of Fabulosity and what is the Church of Fabulosity. Let's start there on the ground level. What is this church, the Church of Fabulosity?
Okay. Well, if we want to start with the legal aspects of it, we are a recognized 501c3 nonprofit religious organization according to the federal government of the United States. You can actually go out to the Internal Revenue Service and look us up, and we are a recognized charity. We are also incorporated in the state of Utah. So that's the legal pieces of it, right? The fun pieces. But really, when we were talking about the Church of Fabulosity or actually just this concept of what it means, it was really looking at our own personal lives. And really, when I say I do refer to my husband and some our closer friends that actually became part of the board that launched this. But really, it came around a lot of the pieces from my own experience in life. And, I was born and raised in the Mormon church. I was a former Mormon missionary. Spirituality and religion's always been part of my life, but I never really truly believed in a whole religious piece. And right now I'm sort of agnostic. But as I started coming out and I started looking at myself and started realizing what I was made up of, there was just moments in my life where I just experienced this pure joy. Once I was able to come out and start understanding who I was, and let myself and allow myself to finally experience joy and happiness. And so over the years, as I've been thinking about this, I've believed in everything. But then within the last year or two, as I've started seeing a lot of negativity in this world, a lot of attacks on the LGBTQ plus community, I started thinking this is something that we need to start sharing. We need to put down into words, and we need to start looking at this, because I believe that the LGBTQ community, we have an internal fabulousness that belongs to us that we need to learn to celebrate and unleash and recognize and feel fully capable of expressing that. Now, some of us do, but not a lot of us do. So sat down, started putting thoughts on paper, like what is this? And the word fabulous just kept coming into my mind as I was writing this down, because I do believe that as humans in general, LGBTQ or our allies or even our non-allies, we all have a divine birthright as part of the human experience of being born on this earth, whether you're a Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Jewish, whoever you are, there's this one unique piece that transcends and goes across boundaries of religion, and that is to be happy, feel fabulous, and to take others along for that ride and uplift the community. So that's really where it started. And I started putting it on paper, and I was like, this is really a spiritual experience. It truly is, because whether you believe you have a spirit or a soul or a chakra or an energy, or you're just a bunch of DNA that's pulled together over evolution, our experience right now is a spiritual experience. It goes deeper into us than just a physical experience. Does that make sense?
A couple things. Okay, so did you say that you are agnostic?
I am agnostic right now.
Okay, so the Church of Fabulosity, is this a church in the conventional sense of the word? Is this a building where people come to worship in whatever way, shape, or form? Is this a church in that sense?
No, it's not. It is actually, it's an online church, and if you go to our website, the Church of Fabulosity, but just churchoffabulosity.org, we have all our beliefs and tenets. We believe that you don't need to be in an actual physical building to do this. There's no place to go actually worship, because it's a non-denominational organization. Everybody is welcome. We're not trying to say that any religion's wrong or right, or that you have to give up your beliefs, because, like I said, this transcends religious beliefs. This transcends everything. And so while we're not a physical church, we're not necessarily a traditional church in that sense of the word, because this is still a spiritual experience. Whatever that belief is why we have settled on the Church of Fabulosity.
So then why the word church in there? Because when you say church of anything, you kind of have a concept, an idea, because the word church is there. So I'm curious why you have that word in there, if it's not necessarily a place, although you say and because of COVID, a lot of quote unquote churches have online services now. You just log on and you can be part of that service. So why the use of that word? Talk to me about that.
We wanted to use the word church because we feel that it's bringing together a community. It's bringing together a community of people that wants to celebrate this thing we call fabulosity, to spread joy, to uplift others. And so by bringing it together as a community, it does act as a church in that sense, because it pulls everybody together under one umbrella, which is really what a church is. Over the years, churches have become, they become money makers, right? You have your mega churches that are out there. You have the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, with billions of dollars, right? But you also have the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. You have the Universal Life Church, which is another online church, which I've been an ordained minister of the Universal Life Church since 2013, which is how I really got to this place in my life. And it was really, we built the framework of the Church of Fabulosity around the Universal Life Church, which has millions of ministers throughout the world, and it's an online church also without a physical location.
So if you are agnostic, what do you believe then?
I believe that so in my life, I've had too many experiences to say that this is it. There's nothing beyond here. Do I believe necessarily that there's some greater being that's pulling the strings and manipulating us, or putting our fates out there and we're all going along to this? I don't. But I do believe that maybe it's our energy that keeps going. Maybe it's the fact that our memories from those of our loved ones that keep us around and then after so long, after all of them are gone and people don't know who we are, and there's no more on the earth that our memory that remember us, then maybe that's when we move on. I don't know. I believe there's something beyond, and there's something inside of us. I just don't know what that is, and I don't feel like I have to know that what the next step is or how it's going to happen. I just believe that as...
Do you believe in like a higher power of some sort, or anything of that nature? Do you consider yourself spiritual?
I consider myself more spiritual. Like I said, I don't believe that it's necessarily something's out there controlling everything and there's somebody for us to worship. And while we're talking about that, I want to make something clear, like in our beliefs and tenets, I am not considering myself some sort of prophet, seer, or revelator, or any type of prophet in that sense, or being called of God. I am here to facilitate this experience for everybody. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what the board is trying to do, is just make this available to those that want to celebrate it and want to and just start to spread joy and happiness and uplift others. So we're just making that available. So don't want people to think that I'm some spiritual guru that's going to start the next mega church, or that I'm Joseph Smith and I saw God out in the woods. That's not who I am or what I'm trying to portray. We're just here to help facilitate this.
And how many people are involved in the Church of Fabulosity in regards to like I'm not sure what to call, like parishioners, essentially?
Well, what our construct is we actually provide ordinations for ministers. So anybody can go out and apply to be a minister. It's actually really simple. It's free. It's a few questions that basically says that you're a legit person and that you're going to live by the tenets of the Church of Fabulosity, and you become a minister. Right now, we just launched in July.
Are you just based in the U.S. right now?
Just right now, okay. We are now.
Don't forget your neighbors up north, girl. Don't forget your neighbors.
Yes, I know. We want to get out there. Here's the thing that I was looking into is that even in Canada, you should be able to become a minister of the Church of Fabulosity. That should not stop you. What would be the difficult piece is what you could legally do with that. In the United States, our ministers can actually perform marriages. But in Canada, we're not a registered organization out there, so I don't think you can do that, but you could still be a minister. So we're welcoming people from Canada to be ministers, but until we actually get recognized as a legal organization over there, there are some things that you might not be able to do. So
then I take it there's no denomination in regards to the Church of Fabulosity, but do you welcome, every denomination if people have that, essentially?
We welcome everybody because happiness and joy is something that transcends no matter what religion you have or lack or non-belief in a religion, right? Because it's something deeper. And we actually look at this as an addition to the to other religious experiences. So we don't we're not out to say we're the only true church or to demean other churches or other beliefs. That's really that's your belief. That's what you want to believe, and that's what you want to follow. And because the Church of Fabulosity has its own beliefs and tenets, we're not trying to take on new definitions or stretch other religions' scriptures or beliefs to try to make us fit in. We're saying this is our beliefs, and it's above and beyond whatever religious belief you have.
Do you think that because of COVID-19 and the pandemic and everything that was going on in those years. You had George Floyd, all that sort of stuff. Do you think that that impacted you and led you to create the Church of Fabulosity?
I do believe a lot of that had to do with it. I've actually been a leader within the LGBTQ community around DEI and equal rights and stuff. I was actually the global president of a very large company, ERG, during the pandemic and during George Floyd and the racial justice movement. And I think a lot of what's happened is like our world has gotten really negative. Our world has gotten to a point where it's so divided that we can't come together. And it really showed during COVID-19. It really showed the way that people reacted to, to COVID and how they treated their neighbors and everything. And the racial justice movement really exasperated and brought out a lot of really awful hate and negativity. And it really just, for me, that's what started it. And that's why I was saying it just like, and then they've been emboldened and now it's moving on to the LGBTQ community and it's moving on to the drag community and the transgender community specifically. And
who knew that a drag brunch can be an issue? Who knew?
Right? Or reading a storybook to children while dressed in drag as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, or whatever character they happen to be dressed as. One of our ministers, our very first drag queen minister, because I'll go back to the drag queen minister. We actually are one of the only churches out there that actually affirm and celebrate drag, because one of our core beliefs is that we use self-expression of dress, dance, music, and artistry to celebrate our uniqueness, fabulousness, and our divine birthrights. And that's whether you're a drag queen or not, because I'm looking at you, Mark, and I'm looking at this picture of you, and you look fabulous with your rainbow scarf and your microphone in your hand, right? And it's like that's part of our human experience, is that we should be able to express ourselves no matter what that means. My birthday a couple months ago, I'm not going to tell you how old I just turned, but my birthday a couple months ago, I got out there and I threw on these amazing high heels. They look like Converse tennis shoes, but they had like 6-inch spikes. I threw on a feather boa, but I was still wearing my
and nothing else.
Oh yeah, no, I was in a public space. But you see me, and I'm pretty sure your listeners aren't going to be able to see me, but for me to be dressed that way is quite the gender bending mind
fuckery.
I don't know if I can say mind fuck. Right? Because you see me, I have a shaved head, I have a full beard, I'm a built guy, and so to be like that, but why should I not be able to do that? Right? Because it made me feel fabulous as I'm out there dancing with my friends and families and celebrating my birthday and just being myself. Right? That's fabulosity. That's what we're trying to get to, because at a certain point in our lives, we as children used to do it all the time. And if you look at children, they experience fabulosity every single day. They can act how they want. They can laugh. They can experience joy. That child that puts on that party dress that they've wanted forever twirls in the mirror, and they are so happy and they feel so pretty. And we celebrate that. But at some point, and they're feeling their fabulosity at that point. But at some point in our lives, we're told you can't act that way anymore. That's not how adults act. And you can't do this. You can't do that. You have to have this certain persona. And same with women, right? Why? Why are we stifling that inner joy and letting it come out? That's stifling our fabulosity. And I think if we actually all did that a lot more, this world would be so much happier. But let me get back to that drag queen, our very first minister drag queen. Her name is Tara Lipsinki. And she's been actually dedicating all her drag shows as a minstrel service of the Church of Fabulosity. Because she believes that as a drag queen and her drag shows, they do what the Church of Fabulosity is trying to do. It's uplifting others. It's spreading joy or happiness, or giving people experiences opportunities to experience joy and happiness by seeing their fabulosity, by joining in on that. But she just wrote a children's book. It's called Letter from the Queen. And she's received death threats. Her drag show has had Proud Boys show up to it. She recently received a bomb threat at one of her drag queen book readings. And recently she was in another place and they threatened to lynch and get a lynch mob out there. It's ridiculous that people are reacting this way.
Why do you think people are reacting in this particular way towards the LGBT community, towards, the drag community, the trans community? Why do you think this is happening?
Personally, I feel that it's being used as a form of fear and power. And it's across the board, right? We had a lot of fear and a lot of fear mongering before 2015, right? That, in other countries and everything, Canada, thank you very much. I actually got married in Canada back in 2008, in Victoria, British Columbia. It was amazing. It's on the seaside. Anyways, but, because unfortunately, the United States does drive a lot of world talk and influences other countries. But before 2015, they had this little thing that they could say that gay marriage is going to do this. It's going to cause this. It's going to cause that. It's going to cause the destruction of the family. It's going to have all this. And they had this little bubble around it. When 2015 came along and the Supreme Court changed that, that bubble burst. Because over the last 8 years, they haven't seen that happening. So all of a sudden, they need something new. They need something new to fight against, to fearmonger with. And so welcome in comes the drag queens and the transgender community. It's something they can rally behind. It's something that, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't knowingly know transgender people. And it's really, they're going after the transgender community. Transgender community is, in a lot of their minds, synonymous with drag, even though they are completely different, even though there are transgender people that are drag queens or drag kings or drag artists. But they're not mutually the same thing, correct? So I think that's a lot of it. So in the United States, we do have the First Amendment, which is the freedom of religion. And as our drag queens and drag artists are actually becoming members of the Church of Fabulosity, and they're dedicating their drag shows and their events as services as a minstrel service of the Church of Fabulosity, it also can be viewed as a protection under the First Amendment.
So, Minister Lala, you grew up in Utah, raised
Yes.
Mormon.
Yeah.
For yourself, being a gay man growing up in Utah being a Mormon. What was that like for you?
You know, it was a mind fuck. You know, I grew up not.
I take it that you knew at an early age that you were gay.
I knew I was different. I didn't really put a word on it until I was like 15 or 16 years old. When I really started going, oh no, that dream I had last night was not of a girl. Right? It was. I started looking back. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a crush when I was in Boy Scouts on that scout leader. Shit, right? But you know, I started realizing when I was 15, 16 years old that there was something seriously wrong with me. Or at that point, that we're going to say that at that point, I am so not in that mindset anymore. But at that point, it was wrong, right? Because in the Mormon Church, you know, homosexuality is, especially back then, was very, very looked down upon. It was, you know, they've changed their stance just a little bit, but it's the same bullshit, just packaged a different way. But, you know, I was told I was an abomination, that I was going to go basically to the Mormon version of hell. That I was never going to be able to be with my family after this life, that I was never going to amount to anything, that I was going to be a drug addict, that I was going to end up getting AIDS, that I was going to have no life. Like this is, and they'll come out and say, well, we never said that. I'm like, yeah, but you inferred it a lot, right?
And how did the how did the Mormon Church come about?
The Mormon Church came about because of a guy named Joseph Smith that saw God, and God gave him golden plates that were buried in the ground from ancient civilizations, and he translated those plates secretly with some special glasses or translation stones, and he wrote that, and that's how the church started.
And this was back in what, the 1800s or something?
It was back in the 1800s, 1826, I believe. Somewhere around there.
And they're saying you are an abomination by being gay.
Yeah.
So did you leave the church?
I did. I did leave the church. Just taking a little step back, there was a certain point where I had to make a decision whether to go on a mission for the church. You know, I think most people know who the LDS Mormon missionaries are, you know, white shirts, ties, and black
the elders, they call some of them.
Elders, yes. I was an elder, and I actually served in the Bangkok, Thailand mission, but I had to make a choice whether to do that or not. And what I decided at that point was, if I go on a mission and I serve God for 2 years and I'm a really good missionary, he'll take this affliction away from me. I will have proven that I don't need to be gay and that I've met my challenge, and it'll go away. So I served for that reason. Do I regret serving? Absolutely not. It was one of the most amazing experiences. I was 19 years old. I got put out into the world. I went to a foreign country. I learned a foreign language, a foreign culture. I got thrown into situations that really taught me to be who I am today and the type of person I have grown to be. I look back at it as a great experience. However, coming home, obviously didn't go away. There was nothing that happened. I went through a few years of struggling, and then I finally came out. I met my husband. I came out in 1996, and then I met my husband in 2005, and we've been together since. And in 2008, we were getting married. We actually got married in Canada, May 22nd, 2008. And at that time was when the whole Prop 8 thing was going on in California. What California was trying to pass. The Supreme Court of California ruled that the amendments blocking same-sex marriage were unconstitutional, and so people were able to get married. And then they came back and blocked it, and then they put a ballot initiative out on it. Was called Proposition 8. The LDS Church got hugely involved with that. If you haven't seen Proposition 8 or Prop 8, the documentary, I would highly suggest you do it. They got very involved with it, very much attacked it. And when I saw what they did, I couldn't be a part of that church anymore. I was complacent at that time. I was like, I don't care if they have my name on the records. If they want to excommunicate me, they can do it. I don't care. At that point, I was like, no, you no longer get the privilege of having my name on your rosters. And I went through the process of having my name pulled off.
Wow. And now you started your own church.
And I started my own church.
So the Church of Fabulosity, you guys have a podcast.
Yes,
so
we
talk
do.
to me about what you talk about in the podcast.
So in the podcast, our podcast is part of about spreading the message of the Church of Fabulosity. So a lot of times who we bring on are some of our ministers to talk about what they do and how did they experience fabulosity and how are they spreading the message, and talk about their experiences in life. We've brought on some drag queens, like Tara Lipsinki, and Kylie Minono. She's pretty well known, and Bonnie Violet from Idaho. But we also bring on other ministers and other people to share their experiences and talk about what is fabulosity, how do they experience it. So that's really what the podcast is really just talk about that and give people ideas and inspiration, and hopefully we start seeing more people just letting themselves experience joy and happiness, because we as humans, as a modern day society, for some reason has said that's not acceptable.
So, Minister Lala, here's my last question for you, and it's simply this: what to you is fabulosity?
Fabulosity to me, I experience fabulosity in a couple different ways. One of the ways that I experience fabulosity is really through service through others. I was raised, a lot of that was given to me as a child, to always be looking out for the least of these, meaning like those that are suffering or those that are more challenged, to make sure that they're coming along for the ride. So I serve a lot. I sit on a couple different boards, nonprofit boards. I do a lot of fundraising. I try to be the best ally to every community that I possibly can, because that's what brings me fabulous. When I see the impact that I'm making and I hear the feedback from the people that I've touched, it is such a great experience to know that I'm making a difference in this world, which is why doing this, people thought, oh, are you nuts? Why are you doing this? This is going to be a lot of work. And you're not even sure if people are going to like it. I'm like, if I change a couple people's lives, if I affect a couple people, if I touch a couple people's hearts and souls and experiences in this world, it's worth it to me. So really, I experience fabulosity in that way. But the other part is just being me. Like I said, I enjoy expressing myself through different ways that people look at me and they're like, that's odd. And I'm like, that's okay, right? It's like, that's me. And I'm truly just letting myself go. It's like, I in my podcast, I talk about some of the ways I experience fabulosity. I experience fabulosity when I put on a tuxedo. Right? Because I put on that tuxedo and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, damn, I look good. Right? And I'm not trying to sound conceited.
And your husband says, Yes, you do.
Exactly. At least he better. But I'm not trying to sound conceited or anything, but that's how it makes me feel. And I'm okay with that. I'm like, I feel good. I look good. I pull out my cell phone and I take a selfie or I take a picture of me in the mirror. Right. But then I throw on a pair of ruby red slip high heels, which I've done. I've showed up to events in a full tuxedo and ruby red platform heels. And I feel more empowered. And I feel that much more amazing, and that inner joy is there. Especially sometimes I do feel joy when I know that I've made somebody else think. But it's those are the ways that I experience fabulosity. And it's such a freeing moment to let yourself just be happy and express yourself and not concern yourself with what others think. If I want to throw on heels, I'll throw on heels. If I want to paint my toenails, which I do, a lot of times I'm changing them throughout the season or based on the holiday, then I will. What's somebody going to say? So, it's just being able to express yourself and be able to feel that. And the more you can do that, the happier you are, and the more you can spread that with others, right? There's actually this Mormon poster that they have out there. I remember it was called. It says, "Attitudes are contagious as yours worth catching." And I really do believe that as we spread fabulousness, as we feel and celebrate our own fabulousness and put it out there in the world, others are going to experience it. Others are going to benefit from it. And then it can continue to grow.
Minister Lala, I have to say, well said. Well said. Well said. Well said. Well said. Well said. Well done. Well organized. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I encourage everybody to go out and become a minister of the Church of Fabulosity. I mean, how amazing is that to tell people that you're a minister of the Church of Fabulosity?